All right, you're live.
All right, what's up, you guys? My name is Kotetsu, and welcome to the Gamers Realm. We have an awesome episode for you guys with some beautiful people here. First off, I want to say I'm going to be taking over the role of host from Mr. Switch, man. He deemed me the host today. So I want to introduce Mr. Switch here.
What's going on, guys?
We got Xavier. Say hello.
Hey, how you doing?
We have CHICHUKI here.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Lizzie the Hedgehog. Sorry if I butchered that.
Hey.
And we got the main man here himself, Triforce, man. Say hello, man.
What's going on, guys? We in the building.
So yeah, just from me, man. Like when I heard that you're gonna be on here, just looking at, I want to say you're not the origin, but the lineage. Like your lineage, man. It's just like I remember I first saw you're gonna be on, and I recognize this dude, man. Like, where have I seen him before? And I'm like, oh, now I've seen him. I'm seeing him like everywhere. So it's like you've been there from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And to see where you are now from where you started is just awesome. So first off, I want to talk about your gaming history, man. Like, what led you to become Triforce?
Well, the whole Triforce thing, that's not even a name I kind of picked it, but I was influenced to pick that because originally everyone just called me Isaiah. And I used to have a house where guys were just coming I just play games, and I had a whole list on my wall of all the games that I'd beat. I'd play some of the hardest games of the times, games from like R-Type to what's the name of this game in here? Contra 3, which I don't think is that hard. Contra Force is harder. Total Carnage. Some of the hardest games on the NES and Super Nintendo, and those games, Super Ghouls and Ghosts and so forth, going all the way to the PlayStation. And my friends one of my friends called me Game Master, and my friends did not like the fact that they called me Game Master, so they teased me and called me Gay Master.
Oh my God.
Come on, man. You know, that's how the 90s is. Like, Game Master, you're the Gay Master, and it's foolishness.
Man.
So, and then one guy, he was really good at games. His name is called Robert Billings, Lord Ugg. And he's like, I'm not calling you no Game Master. He's like, first of all, you love Zelda too much. If anything, you're a Zelda master. I'm going to call you Zelda. And I'm like, Zelda is a female. So there's like, it's like, oh, what's the main character, Link? And I was like, no, that doesn't even sound like a name for me. And then someone was like, you know so much of Zelda, I should just call you Triforce. Bam, that's how that stuck. And then that's how I got called Triforce. And then over time and the stuff that I've done and records that I've gotten in Guinness World Records, people just called me Triforce Game Master. Because like I have like 30 records in Twin Galaxies and 10 Guinness World Records and all in video games and records and stuff like that. So that's how the whole thing got. And then I changed my name to Triforce legally. That's legally my name.
Wow.
And,
so you got it trademarked and everything.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah. A lot of people ask and they go like, why? Well, if your name is Isaiah, why do everyone call you Triforce? It's because I legally changed my name. That's why the president of Nintendo, the former president of Nintendo, Reggie Fils-Aimé, he calls me Triforce because it's legally my name.
That's dope. That's crazy.
So that's that's how I got it, and what made me get into the whole. I don't think when it comes to like how it started, I don't think I'm one of the people who started. I just believe that I'm one of the pioneers that at that time before YouTube or anything like that, I just got recognized for what I was doing in Nintendo fandom. Because, back in the days, I had the Nintendo Power magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And there are other people who pioneered it long before me.
Yeah. And they had like the Nintendo Street Team during that time too.
Well, I was on the street team.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I was on. Okay. The story for that quick story, they had a whole contest to go for the street team. And I used my gaming team, Empire Arcadia, to help Nintendo Street Team. And I was like, why are you doing that, Triforce? What if you don't make it on the street team? And I was like, I'm not doing it to make it. Well, I want to get on the street team, but I wasn't really doing it to get on the street team. I just wanted to do it because I just wanted to help Nintendo.
Right.
And I became the number one person that they voted for to be on the street team for the East. And then something happened. They had to redo the votes, and then I just didn't get picked. And I was like, not a problem. And I decided to just help anyway and go along with them and the whole 9 yards. And then one day we was at Neutral Grounds. I don't know if anyone lives in New York, but there's a place called Neutral Grounds. It's a trading card place. Oh, you know Neutral Grounds? Okay,
I do know Neutral Grounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had an event there, and Nintendo came there with their street team and the whole 9 yards, and it was like, we have a surprise to tell you guys, and they're like, Triforce, come on up. And I went up, I was like, what? And it was like, Nintendo has decided to dub you as an official street team member in New York. And I was like, whoa. And there's pictures of it too in the whole 9 yards, and that's how I got on the street team, and that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I started to work for Nintendo in a more official capacity when they opened up their store at that time, which was called Nintendo World, which they had to change it to Nintendo New York because now you have Nintendo World in the theme park and whatever. So, and it's only because I did the launches with the games and the street teams and stuff like that, and there was MTV and Viacom and all these other people that was involved that kind of put me out there. But the reason why I kind of downplay it, because there are other people with me at the time and people before me that laid that groundwork for that. And like, I'm not Nintendo's first commercial ambassador, so to speak. Dan is. They even made a commercial for him, Dan the Game Master, back in the 80s when he was marketing Nintendo on television. So I just want to give, respect and homage to the guys before me.
Yeah, and I respect that because of that, the generation of influencers, ambassadors during that time brought the new generation like myself. I mean, just in a sense of doing content and working with like doing Nintendo product and stuff. The new generation like me and all of us here, we can definitely appreciate what you've done, and just in all of it. Like I said, like I was like, I seen this dude before and I saw him, I was like, that's where I seen him, because he was here and here and here, so that's awesome. Another question for me was how did it feel just to be able to get that first world, be in the book of the Guinness World Records, like that first time, just feeling you were, just that first feeling of like, yo, man, this is real. My name is in this, in this legendary book or, list or whatever they got it at.
Well, I was annoyed. That sounds stupid. I was annoyed because I fought so hard. Have you ever overworked something so hard that when you finally got the reward for what you did, you were upset you had to go through all of that? You were like, it was more like, it's not like, oh my God, thank you. It was more like a finally. It was that's how it was weird though. So I was like, finally. And then every record that came afterwards, it just felt like, okay, I know what my ability is. I know my skills. So it's like in my heart of hearts, I go, I deserve it. So I'm a very overconfident person to some degree. So like when I got those records, I felt like I didn't get the records. Some people, when they get the record, you have guys like Michael Jordan, and then you got guys like, I don't want to say LeBron James, so I'm not going to do that. You got guys like Anthony Davis, right? Like, Michael Jordan, and I'm talking about Michael Jordan at championship number 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Right. So let's compare Michael Jordan versus Michael Jordan. You have Michael Jordan from championship number 1. That Michael Jordan was so grateful because he worked so hard to get it. But Michael Jordan at 5 and 6, it was more like, I'm Jordan. Like, this is expected. Like, it's good. I feel great about the championship, but like, I'm Jordan. Like, come on, man. Like, what do you think was gonna happen? So
right.
I've always been like that, and it's video games, so it's not like it's athletic or something like that. Like, if you're born with the talent, you have it. So I know I have the talent, and I've seen so many other people who have gaming skills like mine or beyond mine, and they get it. So I'm like, well, if they can do it, and I know I'm good enough, why can't I do it? So when I get it, it's like, I knew I could do it. It wasn't more like, oh my goodness, I'm fighting against the world, and it's only one person in the world can get it. If you're good at the game, you'll get it.
I feel that. And another one is, we talked about this before, and it's like, could you let us know about the timeline that you were referring to us, or you want to wait until we get into that last?
I think we should wait last for that.
The last, okay. So
That
I'm gonna
sounds
let
like a
everyone.
huge thing.
I'm gonna let everyone ask
that,
it. I'm gonna let everyone go. But no, thank you for that, man. I think really just what you were talking about, the mindset of you like, yo, man, I already know I can, and if these people can, I already know I can do it. So if these people have the same mindset I did, then why not have my name at that pedestal? So that's really dope, and I feel that. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
No problem. The guys, but the guy you mentioned something earlier, and I want to give props to the guys afterwards, because I came after a generation, and there's another generation after me. Guys like yourself. I want to give shout outs to Danny and Evelyn from Nintendo Cade. Those guys are just like
Oh
you.
yeah.
Those guys are cool.
I'm sure you guys all know Abdallah.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone should know Abdallah.
That's
he's a truth, right?
Mm-hmm,
And then you all, obviously, you guys know, like when I pass a torch to C and D. So definitely big shout outs to the generation after. There's a new guy coming up. His name is called John Tendo 64. Yes, John Tendo 64, and he's making a big push and stuff like that in the community. So big shout outs to, and not just us, you guys on here, like in this interview, because in the podcast, I mean, because like what I used to do for Nintendo in 2012, I had to stop, not because I don't think at my age I can't do it, but there's other things that I would like to do for me. And I spent 25, I'm 43. I just don't look like it, but I spent a quarter century doing a lot of stuff for Nintendo. And there are things that I want to do for not only myself, but for African people in gaming globally. So in order for me to do that, I have to kind of this doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing anything Nintendo, obviously not. But my focus will no longer be Nintendo, and I focus on that, which is why I had to pass the torches, which is why I appreciate the stuff that guys like you guys, you make it happen. I'm glad that there's another generation afterwards that's going to carry this on and continue to do it. And my job is to just be here to try to like mentor and show support to you guys as much as I can until it's you guys' turn to mentor the generation after you. And that's how we keep it going.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So anyone else has any questions, anything for Triforce here?
Okay, we got one. You want to take it?
Go ahead. No,
I was actually gonna read the chat. Okay, we got one from the chat from our buddy Cliff. He wants to know what made you decide to do game launches. I know you've been attending a lot of game launches, Triforce.
That the game launches was accidental. That was not, and I repeat, not supposed to happen. My first game launch is not what people think it is. It was back in 1996, and that it was an accident when it was dropping the Nintendo 64. There was Manhattan Mall, was it at 35th and Broadway at the time. All the way at the top floor, there was a building. The building's still there, but they don't call it Manhattan Mall anymore. And all the way at the top floor, they had a EB Games in '96.
EB Games throwback, man.
Yeah, and what they did was they was having a launch for the 64, and a friend brought me. He's like, "Listen, what you doing?" I was like, "Nothing." He's like, "Come with me." I said, "Where? Why?" And he was like, "I'm gonna go and get my Nintendo 64." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Oh, you know where you can get a Nintendo 64?" And I don't want to talk about like this is kind of. I shouldn't even bring this up.
It's hush-hush, man. It's
a New York thing.
Man. Yeah.
Dudes were stealing 64s off trucks. They were selling it in the hood. I was living in Harlem at the time. So I was like, why would you want to buy it? Like, you could just get it from the...
just wait for a truck, man.
And the guy's like, nah, man, they're giving out these special things if you get it at the store. So I was like, really? So that's what made me want to go with them. And I went with them to the launch, and I was like 25th in line, and the first person in line got this special thing. And I was like, man, that should have been me. If I'd known about this launch, I'd have been here like 2-3 days early. But that was my first launch. So I was like number 25. Then the next launch I did was, the next actual launch I did was Wind Waker. That was the next launch I did. And that was at Rockefeller Plaza with the GameStop well, it's still there. The GameStop is underneath in Rockefeller Plaza.
Yeah.
I came there literally 12 hours early. They had the gates locked, and it's like, we can't let you in. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait it out. And it's, what time you guys open? We open at 6. Not a problem. So I said, I'll be back around 4:30. So I left. I went to McDonald's, hung out with my friends at the McDonald's on Avenues of America, which is still there. Came back there 4:30. 3 people was in front of me. I was so
I would have been hot.
mad.
Oh, I would have been.
I was so pissed. I got into an argument with the security guard. I was like, I was here first. And he was like, hey, man, look, they opened them up because the EB was open up. What do you want us to do? And the guy, I was trying to plead with the guys, can I be first in line? And they was like, nah. They was like, he was there first. And I was fourth. And when the people from Nintendo came there, I explained it to them, let them know. And the security guard corroborated my story. He's like, he was here first and whatever. And then the guys from Nintendo was like, we don't want to make a problem. We can't move the guy out of the line, yada, yada, yada. I'm sorry, man. I was so upset. And then you just said, listen, just stand in the line and just chilling and wait on whatever the case may be. And a radio company came and started interviewing people. And when they did my interview, like I kind of tried to MC. I was like, I'm gonna outshine the guy in the first in the line. You know, I was trying to, I'm so petty about it. Yeah,
that's what he gets for taking my spot.
You know, that's what he gets for taking my. No, literally, I was literally thinking like that. And I started, pushing the whole event and the whole 9 yards, and they stopped me. And they stopped and they went to the next person, whatever. And then when they started to launch the line, a guy from Nintendo came out, and I have the shirt still, and he had the Wind Waker button-up polo official Nintendo shirt, and he said, "How would you like to launch the event for us? We'll give you a copy of the game, but you have to launch. You can launch the event for us situated here first." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, we like the interview you did. Can you do that?" I was like, "Yeah." I was all hyped too. They gave me the shirt, put it on, and everything, and they gave me the mic. And I was in the line. I was cheering everybody on and everything, and they gave me a special prize for it in the whole 9 yards. But the guy in the line first, he got the original official parchment scroll for Wind Waker's map, real parchment scroll. And I was like, man, I would have traded the MC spot for the parchment scroll.
Man.
Yeah, but then from that point, I said, all right, never again will I ever not come first. And every launch that had anything Nintendo with Zelda, system, Mario, I came there 3, 4, 5 days, 1 week, 2 week, 1 month early. Yeah. And I just launched, and I was like, no one's gonna ever beat me ever again. And I ran that all the way up to 2012, and then I retired. There was one slip up in it, though, because when they launched Mario Galaxy, I got there 5 days early, and there was a guy there in front of me. I was number 2.
Oh man!
I will show you how petty I am. I'll show you how petty. When you're older now, you look back at yourself and some of the things you do. I was like, what? I was like, yo, I can't get first. He was like, no. So I was like, forget this launch. And I just came and picked up the game regularly because I was like, I'm not standing here being number 2. That is not happening. I literally quit the launch. I was like, nope, I'll just, when they launch it, I'll just come and pick up the game, and that'll just be the end. Because I was so salty about that. But outside of that, from after Wind Waker, which is this is 2003, all the way to 2012, I launched everything. And then I told Reggie that that was going to be it for me in terms of the launch. So I couldn't do any more launches because there are other things that I wanted to do. And I just wanted to get those things done first before anything. And Reggie was like, okay. And he's like, well, who's going to launch us? Who's going to launch our stuff? Triforce? And I'm like, Reggie, the community will be there. I felt like Optimus Prime when he was giving the Matrix over to Ultra Magnus, and and Ultra Magnus is like, Prime, I'm not worthy, and he goes, nor was I. And then
voice acting right here. I got the voice actor Triforce here.
Oh man.
What?
We got the voice actor Triforce here.
Well, yeah. Well, I love Transformers. I love Optimus Prime's voice. His voice is ridiculous. So and after that was it. But then years after the Wii U, I felt like the Wii U should never have happened. Wada-san, God rest his soul, made a mistake, a legitimate mistake, when the Wii should have conquered straight into the Switch. It should have been a 7-year system going straight into the Switch. But the industry gassed them up. The Wii sold 100 million units. It didn't have to beat the PlayStation 4. They already beat the PlayStation 3. They could have just waited out, let the software to hardware ratio remain king for Nintendo, and then launch a Switch. But they felt like they needed to power boost the Wii, and that's when they made the Wii U. And when they did that, all they did was allow Sony to come out with their system now and says your system is still underpowered from us, and that's when they took a major hit from that. And that's why the Wii U was hurt. But when you look at the Wii U, which, to be honest with you,
I got mine. I'm looking at mine right now.
Still got mine.
Yeah, that's what mine looks like. That's what mine looks like.
That's the same first Wii U that I got in line. I literally brought that with me to Jamaica, and when that happened, I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I said, but don't worry, Nintendo will come back around and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, when they announced that they was launching a Switch, I was like, whoa, man, I was like, do I launch this? Do I come out of retirement? I just told Reggie I'm done. And I was like, nah, I gotta stick true to what the things that I want to do. But I was like, but what I will do is I will find a Rodimus Prime.
Yeah.
Someone worthy of the Matrix leadership. So I was like, and then I started looking. And that's the whole coincidence with C&D. When I was looking for someone, C&D contacted me and was like, hey, can you teach me how to do the launches of the line? I want to go to a launch in New York. And then I looked him up because I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, this kid looks like Captain N, like Kevin from the Captain N cartoons. And I found out that this guy's not even 20 and he's playing retro games. So I'm like, that's godlike for a younging in the modern era who loves the retro era. Yeah. And he's all into Nintendo. So I'm like, I said, let me call this kid. I call him up, I'm talking to him on Nintendo. I'm like, how would you like to become the first person in line for the Switch? He's like, how? I was like, by standing the line. He's like, I live in Wisconsin. And I was like, I don't know nothing about New York. That's a big city. He's a country kid. And he's like, you know nothing. So I said, I will come down to New York and stand the line with you and show you the whole ropes to make sure that you become the first commercial person in the world to get the Switch. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, because I need to pass the torch down to somebody who's going to hold it up. And his name is called Captain Nintendo, dude. Like, that's Captain N. What the hell? So I'm like, I was like, okay, let's do this. And that's how we got together. And I met so many great people. I met some guys, Mason Delfino, I met Gabe, I met Irvin, I met Cindy. Man.
You know what's so crazy about what you're when you're saying that is how that was going on. And at the same time, I was done with gaming. I started seeing all the Switch stuff with C&D and Triforce. And I started seeing stuff. And then from Chicago, I drove to New York just for it. I made a controller outfit.
I remember.
And I went, and then that's where I met Triforce. And in his video afterwards, he said, Mr. Switch, that's where my name came from. It's just like so cool how this all relates to it. Yeah. It's, how he started a lot of this, and he's still doing so good now. Triforce, you're an inspiration, just so you know. You put back a lot of that gaming into myself alone, and how, again, look where we are now. We're having you on the podcast, where this is amazing, man. Keep going, man. You just give us the Zelda timeline right now.
We won't come to that. I'll do one more.
Oh man.
I just the reason, because a lot of people used to ask me, why do you do these launches? And there's like, you just do it for attention. Now, in the very beginning, yes, I will say that for the Zelda Wind Waker, yes, but after Wind Waker, when I started doing the launches, believe it or not, I did the launches because I just like gathering with the community. That's what I loved about the launches. I like me. It's because you have an introvert. I forgot the other word for it, the outroverts. But I like social gatherings, big social gatherings. The bigger, the better. I love it. And I like playing video games with people and having fun and meeting with other people. I'm one of those guys. So I have to always be around like a lot of people. I just like the social interactions, including some of the bad guys. You guys know what I'm talking about. Certain dudes who switch for switches. But anyway, Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so I just like that whole camaraderie of the community, and that's all. That's the reasons why I just kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. But when I found out other responsibilities and stuff like that, I was like, I couldn't do it anymore. And even now, I miss it. And I'm 43. Would I ever do one again? No. I would attend one, but I would really. I don't see myself launching another system unless if I was to do it, it'd have to be coordinated with Nintendo. It would have to be like literally the Wind Waker one. Nintendo goes, Triforce, how would you like to launch a system for us? And I launch a system as an MC, not someone standing in line, but as an MC for Nintendo. I would do that. But like stand in line and wait till number one, I couldn't do that. I couldn't see myself doing that ever again. But I would love to be a part of those big events and like the Zelda the musicals, the orchestras that they be having. I love those events. So Nintendo knows how to host events. I will tell you that much. Nintendo knows how to throw a party for gamers. In fact, they're the greatest in the world at it. Like nobody's better than that. And I've been to a lot of launch parties. I've been to the Gears of War one. I visited some Microsoft ones. I visited some Sony ones. I'm not trying to diss you guys, but you guys are too old. And that's the problem. Because they're old, that when they go to these events, it's so you can feel the adult in the environment. It's too competitive, too ultra professional. And it's like it's just video.
It feels too corporate, like too corporate.
Triforce. Mason says he misses you.
Oh, really?
He misses you, fan. Right, Mason's on the
YouTube.
Oh, Mason. Oh, I'm seeing him now. And TechWiz. Oh, see? Look, there goes TechWiz. That's another guy coming up in the scene. And TechWiz, he made a video. He got some of the greatest iconic Nintendo fans for Mario throughout the entire community and put a compilation together to celebrate the 35th anniversary. You guys, this generation, you guys are doing it up better than I ever could. You guys have better resources, better technology, and better support from Nintendo. Back in my days and Dan's days, oh man, it was rough. Those days was rough. But like,
hey, Triforce, you see behind me? Do you see what's behind me? They were talking about it. Behind me is Mason's old collection. It's in my room now. Did you see it?
Oh, you bought Mason stuff?
It's right here, dude. I was like, didn't you reckon it? Yeah, I
thought. Well, I thought you just had. I was like, okay, yeah, I've seen that before. Like, you just had your own version.
You had probably half these things in your hand, and and I even had the arcade and things like that. So it's just kind of, I went to Ohio, picked it all up, brought it here. So yeah, Mason's wanting to put that out, or
that's crazy.
TechWiz. Yeah.
Well,
so yeah,
I'm glad that you got it, because when I went to his house, man. That was a surreal house. I was like, man, when I heard that he was like, life hit him and he has to go do some things, I'm like, what's going to happen to all of his stuff? When I found out that he's like somebody who's buying it from him, I was like, all right, good. At least it'll find a new home. Feels like Toy Story 3. You know, when
going
to college, you had to give his toys away and he found somebody else to give it to. So
man, please don't get me started on Toy Story. I'm like, I'll admit, Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, I was balling, but I had to be like cool about it when I was. Because I had like the third movie, I had like my sister and my dad here, and it was that last scene where they almost got burnt up and they picked them up, and I was like, cool. And my dad was like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, all this dust on here and get in my eye, like just watch this movie. But, yeah.
All right. Before we get into the timeline, I want to ask you guys a question, because I got a question for you guys on the street.
Yeah.
How many of you guys were disappointed when Mario did not show up in Wreck-It Ralph 2?
I'm gonna let everyone else go before I go.
You go ahead.
So for a game, I mean, for a movie like Wreck-It Ralph 2, where there's just like so many licenses that they had to do, I'm surprised. Like, let me just kick it to you like this. When I think about video games in general, it's always Mario, then Sonic, then Crash, and whoever else comes down the line. But whenever, when you hear, for me, when I hear video games, it's always Mario, right? So when you have a movie like Wreck-It Ralph, it's like, yo, how come the pioneers of and I say I'm an all-around gamer. I have a PS4, I have my PC, and I play everything. But Nintendo's always been the thing where I have the most fun. But it's like, yo, man, like when you make a movie like that, Nintendo should be like, in a Disney movie at that, Nintendo should have been like right there. I mean, it's cool they had like you saw Sonic, you saw Bison, you saw Zangief, and Pac-Man, you saw, and then the fact that you have Donkey Kong, that doesn't click, and then be like, oh snap, man, we didn't get Mario in here. Oh, we need to fix this and get Mario, because it wouldn't be a Donkey Kong without Mario, So why? That's just me and my thing, where it's like, yo, when it comes to video games, Mario's a household name no matter what. So the fact that you kind of missed the opportunity to not put Mario in there, I'm pretty sure they're looking at it like, dang, we should have put Mario in here. He should have had like some kind of pivotal role in the movie somehow. But
it would have been nice to see him and Fix It Felix together doing something.
Yeah.
One plumbing, one fixing.
Well, there was a piece of artwork that someone did, and I thought it was really cool. It was an artwork of Mario opening his closet, and every single costume he's worn through all the games from beginning to now were in the closet, and he's just sitting there like, what should I wear? So I think Mario was stuck over there trying to figure out what to wear for the movie.
For the movie?
It couldn't be in the movie because he's trying to find an outfit.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if there was a Fix It Felix suit. Like there's Mario Maker 2. It would have been cool if they had a Fix It Felix suit that Mario can put on.
Mario.
Cool.
I don't know why they don't just cross those characters over. Mario fits in that universe. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, I always wonder too, but I mean, I know Nintendo's very protective of Mario.
They're licensing, man.
I mean, I understand that, and I definitely respect Nintendo because I wish Sega was more protective of Sonic. But
they are. Hey, listen. When you look at the Sonic movie, right, and you look at every other video game movie.
Oh yes.
When they dropped the first version of Sonic live action, Sega got roasted so hard that they literally said, okay, what is it? What do you want him to look like? And then I forgot the name of the guy. Somebody actually did a re-rendition of Sonic in 3D, and the movie people copied him as close as possible. And the second version is infinitely better than the first version. That just goes to show you that Sega cared enough to say, we're not going to risk this budget and screw this up. Let's just do it. Although Jim carried the entire movie, but that's not the point. The point is that they made Sonic look good. I can deal with the way Sonic looks now. In fact,
me too.
When I think Sonic, I don't think the cartoon version anymore. The movie version appears in my head because I can accept the movie version. Well, the second version, not that whatever that was. That looked like Sonic on meth. Yeah.
Yo, I just read the chat and Cliff was like, yo, it's time for a Nintendo cinematic universe where we get Smash Bros movie.
No.
That'd be a lot.
They would probably ruin it.
No.
It would just be a lot. It's a lot to first of all, let me just, and I'm sure Triforce and everyone can agree, fighting game movies do not do well.
No.
The fighting game movies do not, because it's very hard to kind of grasp us. It fits in the video game in that universe because everyone has a separate story and they meet up in their own separate arc. So you can't say, oh, hey, we're going to do Street Fighter and we're all just going to meet in one spot and Ryu and Ken aren't the main characters. It's Guile who's the main character of the entire thing, and no one does any of their iconic moves in the entire thing. And if they did, it just looks super, super destroyed. It's just ugly. And then they say, hey, we're going to do a movie,
That's what
a
they
game.
did.
They're going to do and then they say, we're going to do a fighting game based off the movie, based off a fighting game. I'm like, how much time did you just waste thinking about that concept, trying to do that? And I just think fighting games and movies just don't work. Now, I can see it as like a short kind of thing, like a short animated set that Nintendo does. I can see that. But as like a full length movie, that's a rough one. But
the only way it works is if you cameo it. Like if there's a Ready Player One or the sequel Ready Player Two.
Yo, I'm waiting for Ready Player 2.
You go into a part of the game and there's a battle and they use Smash Brothers as the battle.
I see
and you have to pick your character and then you can just pick whoever and then whatever because there's no storyline. They're just avatars that are cameoed in the show. They're not the actual characters. Just like that big war that they had in the end and everyone avatars.
When they had the Gundam
and
oh my God.
And all the other characters. It'll work that way, but to create its own standalone
it'll be hard.
Movie based on its story and lore and timeline.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But I know we kind of got off tangent with all the conversation, but that's cool. But if anyone else had any other questions for anything for Triforce here today.
Oh man, I feel bad. I had questions. Now I don't remember them because Mike at me. And if I didn't
we
feed them,
apologize for that.
Later, and they were going to go down because if I go down the stairs and don't feed them, it's going to be sweep the leg, and they're just going to watch me fall down the stairs and run away. So I had to stop and go feed them because I'm a fur mama, kitty mama.
Anyone else have anything?
I have questions. I'm just trying to remember.
Did you
work on anything related to Sega, of course, because I'm a big Sonic fan. So that's what I was gonna.
No, actually, I never. The only thing that's in my heart regarding Sega is the fact that Sega understood how important Sonic was, and despite the fall of the company, they said to Nintendo, "Listen, we can't trust anybody with Sonic, but we'll lend you Sonic." Because if you really think about it, Sonic is a Nintendo character. No disrespect to the Sega guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Nintendo character. Sonic fits well in the Nintendo universe. From Mario and Sonic in the Olympics to Smash Brothers, he fits well in the universe. I'm sure we all remember Newgrounds. It was Newgrounds, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Super Mario Bros. Z.
Yo, that was a revolution. I'm sorry. That was a revolution for Flash animation when Earthworm Jim, was it Alvin Earthworm Jim who did that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just so dope.
Everyone to this day, I'm telling you, I think Nintendo and Sega has a plan. I think if the day, let's say Sony and Microsoft ever jump Nintendo with their new PS5 or the Xbox, whatever, and Nintendo's in trouble, all they have to say is, it's time, and just do a fusion. And it's like, we're gonna make a Super Mario Sonic Odyssey, and they just make a 3D game adventure of Mario and Sonic together. It is a wrap. I think it will become the all-time selling game. It will beat Minecraft.
Whoa!
I buy that. Now, how much? And I dropped a good $1,000 on the Sonic movie. You know, watching the movie, making costumes, buying on merchandise. I mean, I went all out. So if that happened, Sega better believe, yes, I would be number one.
All right.
Triforce, favorite game of all time.
Favorite game of all time? Oh, that one is hard. I don't have a favorite game.
Favorite 5? Top 5?
Favorite 5, easy. So before I used to have this thing where everyone's like, Triforce, what's your favorite Zelda game? And before Breath of the Wild, I never had one. Breath of the Wild is easily now my favorite Zelda game of all time, hands down. The rest are all great, but this game, because it incorporates the entire lore and history of Zelda, and it makes sense to my timeline. After that, I would then say the Mario series, the Tetris series. Oh man, and then what's 4 and 5 favorite games of all time? Oh crap. The Contra series. I can't make games because I play too many versions of it, depending on how I feel. I'm like, oh, this is good. And the Gears of War.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Gears of War is dope.
Yeah. And it's only because it's what Contra should have turned out to be, but Konami failed.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I can relate. I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
If you took Gears of War and just said Contra, you'd be like, oh, okay. It is literally today's Contra. That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
But yeah, those that's my top 5, and then I just play anything I love. I just play anything I like. That's the honest truth of it. I just play anything I like.
Xavier, you have anything for Triforce?
Yeah, I do. What game made you rage the most ever playing? Like what really got you?
The game that made me rage the most.
Yeah.
Oh, this is I don't think I have any game that. Oh no, yes I do, because there's a difference between it being hard and raging. The entire Smash Brothers series, because they just will not give Link a way to get back on the stage. I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah, that's
okay. Hold on.
Constantly, you could just get Link and that's it. You can't do anything. Boom, pop, pop. You lost your jump. Hey, see you later, and he just dies. And I'm like, and then this is the thing that made me rage. And you can tell I'm rage because a part of it's coming out right now. They make Ultimate. And then they make Dragon Warriors Hero, and they give him Rivali's Gale. I'm like, I did before Smash Brothers Ultimate came out. I did a little vlog on YouTube with Kubu and Shinji from our Smash Brothers division, and I said, now they can officially give Link Rivali's Gale so he can get back on the screen. Now we can finally get that. They don't give it to him. They give it to this no count since 1986 Dragon Warrior. What has Dragon Warrior done to help Nintendo in the last 30 years? Nothing. But we're going to give him a way to get back on the screen. And Link, who saved our ass for 30 years straight, because you ever notice something about Nintendo? When Nintendo is in trouble, they launch a Zelda game and it saves them. You ever notice that?
That actually makes sense.
Go back and look at it.
That does make sense.
You'll notice whenever they drop a Zelda game, bam, they body everyone, right? And they give this to this no count. And that's what makes me rage. I think
really don't think what they could have done is they could have easily just made 2 different like generations of Link, like have the Link from all the other ones that has the same moveset, and then give Link his the Breath of the Wild. Because I agree, the only thing that we got from Breath of the Wild reference was the bombs. That was it. Where you can use they don't just explode. You throw them and you can set them up for people, but that's it. That's all. And then his attire, and that's it. You don't really get too much of Breath of the Wild Link in Smash Bros.
A new skin and a different way to detonate your bomb.
Yeah,
wow.
I get that.
Thanks, Nintendo. Well, actually, it's not really Nintendo. But like we know whose fault it is. But yeah. If that's your questions, guys, we can get straight to this timeline.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Does anyone have any last little bit of questions? Anything, comments or anything?
I'd rather not. I'm so anxious for this timeline.
Yeah, timeline.
All right, man. All right, we're in our segment now where we talk about the timeline with Triforce, man. That's all you. Go ahead, take over, man. Right.
Usually I try to stay humble about certain things, but because this is Zelda, there will be no humility. I'm gonna let it all out. Everyone in the Nintendo universe, including Nintendo, got the timeline wrong. Period. They all got it wrong. I'm the only one who got it right. Yes, I got it right. Even Nintendo got it wrong. But not seriously speaking. Well, I'm actually partially serious about that. And here's the reason. No one explains which time theory they're using to explain their timeline. They're just saying this is the order it goes in, and that's the timeline. And they're like, okay, well, time theories are all fake. Even the way we live in time now, the way we understand time, it's a theory. It's not real. Like it's not like this is fact. This is how time works. This is how humanity understands time. It's still a theory. We don't know how time actually works. Until we can go forward and backward in time, then we'll know how time works. Until then, we use the sun and create constructs based on where in the world the sun comes up and goes down to determine what the time is. That's all we can do because of our limited knowledge of the universe, et cetera. But when you go into time theories and quantum physics and all this other stuff and like that, there are different. There is the butterfly effect. That's a time theory. There is the time stream. That is the simplest timeline most people use. Have any of you guys ever played a video game series called Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen? Okay, they use the time stream. Same thing for Rick and Morty. Yes, the cartoon, they use a time stream, but the way they use it, it explains. Actually, Legacy of Kain explains it as well. A time stream is your time starts from one point, A, and it gets to Z. So they will A will always be constant, Z will always be constant. Everything in the middle can change, but it will always have an end and the beginning. Those are the only things that are constants. So if you watch the cartoon Rick and Morty, where what's this guy's name? Morty and his sister got into an argument and they fractured time. And then Rick was like, wait a minute, hold on. And he went to the machine and he clicked and he was like, there's only supposed to be one freaking dot. And it was 2 dots. That's called a divergence. It's when time splits off and makes another path within that time stream. So think of it like water coming down from a mountain and the end is a sea. The water can break into different ravines, creeks, and different streams, but all the water at the end will end up in the ocean. That's the end game. How it gets there is how it gets there. So what happens here is that there is a divergence and then there is a convergence. The convergence is when all the fractured parts of the stream come back into one and then goes into the end of time. That's what it is. In my timeline, I use the convergence theory. That's why it's just a time stream. It starts at Skyward Sword. There's a convergence at Ocarina of Time, which the convergence breaks up into Wind Waker. So that Wind Waker is like timeline B, and timeline A keeps going until you get to Four Swords Adventures, and there's a convergence, and the time comes back as one again, and then it goes straight through from A Link to the Past, Link Between Two Worlds, Triforce Heroes, what's the name of this thing? Cadence of Hyrule, which I got to find out where in the timeline that actually fixed it. I never even did that yet. And then it goes straight down all the way to the end with Breath of the Wild is the actual end. Everybody else's timeline is more like alternate realities. And the reason why these are alternate realities is because each of their timelines have their own separate ending to that time. So in Hyrule Historia, when they go, this is the timeline when the hero fails. Well, if the timeline of the hero fails has its own ending, then that's it. So that's an alternate reality. That's not the timeline. The timeline can't end somewhere else and then still be going somewhere else. You mean that's an alternate reality with its own timeline, and it ends with the hero failing, and so forth and so forth. The better way to explain it is the end game. When Doctor Strange told Tony Stark's, once Thanos snapped, Doctor Strange looked in the timeline of the universe they were in. He looked at all the different timelines of the reality they were in. They all end the same because Thanos snapped. So the end was already predetermined now. That's the end. But every time stream has a paradox.
Now, can I ask you something real quick? Now,
sure,
when you explain the timeline, now I always kick people when it talks about time. I like talking about the theory of time, and when you're talking about the convergence and all that, I get that. Would you say if you've seen, I know we've all seen Back to the Future Part 2, like the greatest movie of all time. When they went back to the alternate 1985, do you like that theory of the alternate universe, but it has a different ending? It can't go back to the original timeline. Do you think if they didn't go back to the past and change that past so their original timeline can continue, do you think that alternate time would have eventually came back into play into the original time stream, and then everything?
Let me explain that. So the way the convergence happens is because time has its own law of nature. It works its way. What happens in the middle is irrelevant. It's immaterial to what the end game is always going to happen. That's why Thanos kept saying, I'm inevitable. When he lost in Endgame, and he even told Nebula, she was like, when he saw himself in another time get his head chopped off, she was like, Thanos, you died. And he's like, my work was done. Thanos already knows after he does his work, he's going to die. The difference is Thanos can accept that. He accepts the end game.
I get where that's coming from.
So he says, it doesn't matter what happens to him in this version of time in the universe, in all 14 million, whatever Doctor Strange comes in, Thanos dies. He's going to die in those timelines. But the one thing that's constant, the one thing that's inevitable is the snap. The snap will happen. Nothing they can do to stop it. All they can do is look for a part in time where they can create a paradox. And what a paradox does is this. The time stream goes, if there's an irritant that disrupts the flow of time and creates a divergence, time naturally will fix things to bring it together as a convergence to get to the end. If the irritant that's trying to stop time from converging is stronger than time, a paradox happens, which then destroys that timeline and creates whatever alternate new ending the person who was strong enough to resist time does. And that is the whole in Hyrule Astoria and everybody else's timeline that they keep making with these alternate endings. I'm like, you guys keep saying in this timeline, this ending, all you're talking about is the paradox and alternate realities. You're not talking about the timeline. A timeline is literally what it is. It's a line based on time. So there's a beginning and then there's an end. If you break it up into different pieces, it's not a line anymore. That's why it's called timeline. So that's why I confidently say they're all wrong.
I got you.
Just want to put that out there.
Just so you guys know.
No, that makes sense, man. Like honestly, like I can say like I didn't get into Legend of Zelda until I played one of the GBA versions called Minish Cup. I think I always get that name wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, Minish Cap. I played that one. I love that. But I never played any of the other ones because I was so discouraged of the game itself until I was like, you know what, man? I'm just gonna jump in, and I bought Wind Waker, and I loved Wind Waker, and I said, yo, they have Twilight Princess on the Wii U. I'm gonna get that. I was like, yo, Wind Waker's in the back seat now. I'm just locked in the Twilight Princess, and I've always wondered. I was like, because there's so many different versions of Link. Like, which one can they say is the one? And just like you're saying, which one can they say is the one that starts here? And the one that ends. And I can agree when you say Breath of the Wild is the end because Link is already happy. He already has the Hylian shield and the Hylian sword before Ganon just destroys everything.
In Breath of the Wild, the lore, the environmental lore, and the world map of Hyrule pretty much tells you everything. When you meet Cass explains to you that this is so far into the future. The whole lore of the game tells you it's 10,000 years from the age of myth. That's what they call the old Zelda games, the age of myth, because these are stories passed down and they're in the new generation where they've heard all of these stories of the knight clad in green will come and do this, blah. Those are stories, legends, and myths, which makes sense because in my timeline, right, when I told you where it starts. When it merges, it's supposed to be. It could be. You can make an argument that let's just say because I haven't really gone through the game yet, but Cadence of Hyrule that comes after what's the name of this game? A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes. Then you have Oracles of Seasons and Ages. Then after Oracles of Seasons and Ages, you have A Link Between Worlds, A Link's Awakening. Then you have Zelda 1. Which is the Legend of Zelda, and then you have Zelda 2. If you look at Zelda 2 on the NES, there's a reason why it's not called the Legend of Zelda. The legend has ended. It's called the Adventures of Link. It's called Zelda 2, the Adventures of Link. The legend is over. In Zelda 1, you destroy Ganon Dragmire's body. His body is turned to ash. After his body's turned to ash, they get his ashes, they try to put it in the Thunderbird in Zelda 2, and they try to get Link's blood on the Thunderbird to revive Ganon Dragmire's body. It's actually his name, because people mix up Ganon and Ganondorf Dragmire. Ganondorf Dragmire is a Gerudo.
Yeah.
Ganon is what Ganon is the spiritual corruption and manifestation of demise. That's all Ganon is. That's what Ganon is. When you see him turn into a pig, it's demise. That's why in Skyward Sword, when you see demise, it's Ganon. Well, Ganon before Ganon. Before he got the name Ganon, we only call him Ganon for short because you see him expressed through Ganondorf Dragmire. So you call him Ganon for short. And that's why Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be crazy, because there's Ganondorf Dragmire's body is found. Now, this is the crazy part. When you play Zelda 2, they put Ganondorf Dragmire's ashes in the Thunderbird, but you destroy the Thunderbird in Zelda 2, and you beat him, and Ganon stays in astral form in the Zelda cartoons and in the Zelda CDI games. Call them trash all you want, but yes, in my timeline, those things exist. They exist after Zelda 2. They were poorly represented or expressed, well, except for the cartoons. I think the cartoons was godlike, except for excuse me, princess. But outside of that, the cartoons was godlike. I think if they remade, if like a developer came and said, yo, let's just remake the CDI games and just do it better, those games would be godlike. Because if you look at it from a lore standpoint, the fact that Link goes to a faraway land in faces of evil and the wand of Gamelon and the adventures of Zelda, those games actually are good. They were just poorly expressed. They need to be remade or remastered. No, not they need to be a whole overhaul, remake, period. But those two games take place. In my timeline, it ends at the last game. The last game it ends off is the Adventures of Zelda for the CDI. So now Ganon has been thoroughly, his astral form has been literally destroyed, and to the point where he's too weak to even cause problems in Hyrule.
Right.
10,000 years later, Ganon stored up all of his powers in astral form. And then you have the Age of Calamity. And that's when Ganon now breaks free of the seal with 10,000 years of backed up saved power, and he storms Hyrule, which is what we're going to play next month.
Yeah.
And then in the Age of Calamity, Zelda sacrifices a life, blah, 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 puts Ganon in, and then you have Breath of the Wild. And then now after Breath of the Wild, you have this new Zelda sequel, which they show Ganon's body. But this is what I think. My theory is this, and I don't know, I'm 50-50 on it, because we know that body is a Ganon body. What I don't know is that the original Ganondorf Dragmire, or is that Ganondorf Dragmire the second? Did in the time of the 10,000 years Ganon was in astral form, the Gerudos born a new male Gerudo. I'm saying it all wrong. Was a new male Gerudo born? And that's Dragmire number 2. And then Ganon went into his body. We don't know. And I'm just like, it could be, because Ganondorf Dragmire's body was destroyed in Zelda 1, turned literally to ashes. There's a way you could say, well, in Link's battle against the Thunderbird, when he defeated the Thunderbird and was destroyed and was mantled and Ganon's ashes fell over the place in that battle, his blood was on the floor and his blood touched the ashes, and then Ganon got his new body back. They could always spin it that way and say, so Dragmire came back again. But then that wouldn't explain what happened with whatever, unless they say it took 10,000 years for his body to regenerate. etc., etc. Nintendo could make whatever they want. I'm just glad that they put Breath of the Wild at the very end, because when you look at the tagline for Breath of the Wild, it says The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a legend reborn.
Right.
What I like about that is they're saying, okay, guys, look, we made a mistake putting out Hyrule Historia because now see, look what you guys are doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the legend over. We're going to call the timeline, Hyrule Historia, Triforce's timeline, and everybody in the Zelda community's timeline, the Age of Myth. Any one of you guys' timeline could be right. We're not going to say which one is right. We're just going to leave it there and call it the Age of Myth. We don't know.
Yeah, we'll let all the speculating of everyone else determine.
You
which
guys
one
argue
is the
over
right
it.
one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That gets the weight off Nintendo's back and like, let's reborn the legend based on the foundational lore of the brand.
Right.
So you still get your Link, you still get your Zelda, you still get the Master Sword, you still get all of these things based on the old lore, but it's not connected to it because it's 10,000 years later. I can deal with that. I'm so glad they did that because that counters Hyrule Historia, and just leave it alone, have your theory, and I never wanted Nintendo to come out with a timeline because they did not sit down and go through the actual thought process of the lore of time. This was the problem. And I thought it was, whenever you deal with timelines and stuff like that, you take a major risk with a brand because time is not factual. It's all theoretical. So you're throwing your lore up in the air for people to argue, and then you'll get people like, see, man, you'll get some people who go, I don't like this, and they'll stop playing your game just because of some petty nonsense like that.
Yeah, like
I'm
kind
not
of
one
like
of those guys.
kind of like what I think the Kingdom Hearts series is kind of in a way like that because there's so many other alternate games, and some games say, hey, this one took place here, but then there's still some things missing where it's like, well, who's this character? How does this character factor into Sora or Roxas or something like that? And then it's just like, all right, well, now we got this new character. Okay, well, who is this character that we're waiting for? And it's just like there's so many theories. Like I think the biggest theory of all is Vanitas. I'm like, how does Vanitas look like Sora? I'm still picking and choosing. Why does Vanitas look like Sora? But
you have to create it in your own mind.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm gonna tell. I'll give you guys a trivia question, and I'll give you a hint in it. Name a very popular, iconic third-party game brand in which once they introduced time to it, they devastated the brand.
This I gotta think about this one.
Give you guys 30 seconds. When I tell you the game, you're gonna be like, yep.
I want to say no. I'm not gonna say that.
Say it. Just say it. You may be right.
I want to say Final Fantasy because even though it's different stories, there's nothing that kind of says, all right, well, in a way, I think when it gets to up to 7 and 8, it's just like, all right, well, where does I mean, not connecting, but where does this sense of time kind of fit between the games?
Have you ever played Final Fantasy 9?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember Mr. Tot, right? If you play Final Fantasy 9, have you watched the movie Spirit
Within? Yep, I see Spirits Within, yeah.
Final Fantasy 9 tells you how Final Fantasy works. Every Final Fantasy is a different story in time of the world of Gaia.
Right, okay.
So nothing connects. No, none of the people connect. They're just different stories in the world of Gaia throughout 200,000 years. Here are the different things that happened within the world during that time. That's all it is. And when you look at it that way, you can accept Final Fantasy. You can, so they're all standalone stories in the world of Gaia. Yes, Spirits Within tells you that because look where they go. It's in space now in other worlds. That's all Final Fantasy is and whatever. But the game that time destroyed was Castlevania.
Yeah, that's another one.
Okay, I haven't played too much of the Castlevania game, so for people who have, they probably know the.
If you played the one on the PlayStation 3, was it Lord of Darkness?
Lord of
Darkness,
yeah.
No, Lord of Shadows.
It was PS3. Lord of Shadows, yeah, it's for PS3, yeah.
When they showed you Gabriel in the future, Manhattan, and they put the time, done. They killed it. They hurt. That's why, like when Netflix did the anime, They just based it on like, all right, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. We're going to go back to Justin. We're going to go back to Trevor, Sifa, do this again, because they even use references when that guy who went in the time portal, and you see all the different craziness going on in the different times and stuff like, to let you know that there isn't, Dracula transcends even time. Like, Dracula will be in the future. They had to do that to kind of piece it together, because they use time, they really scattered Castlevania. Castlevania should be like a big Castlevania should be, lore-wise, should be on the same level of Final Fantasy and Zelda.
I agree. Well, I know we're getting close to that hour mark, but did anyone have any words to say to Triforce? Any last questions they want to ask them before we close out today?
I was going to ask he's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think just this whole interview, this whole podcast today, like, it's just like, for me, it just kind of lets me know that, to meet someone who kind of like you said, he didn't start it, but he took the torch and was another pioneer into what we call now, like I don't want to say brand ambassadors, but
community
I can
ambassadors.
say, huh?
Community ambassadors.
Yeah, community yeah, exactly. That's just to in not a way that we can directly communicate and work with Nintendo, but in a way that we bring more people to Nintendo, even if they're already fans. We have older fans who are just like, yeah, I remember, Nintendo was like this, and they got someone who's doing this, or it's like, I want to know what new Nintendo looks like. And we have people like myself. I do a lot of the new stuff, who that kind of bring people over, and then that kind of builds this brand new kind of version of like these two generations of Nintendo players together. And I think meeting someone who pioneered that, and kind of like it, like, not directly passing the torch, but like, I know that I'm pushing. I got to the point where I'm like, and you even said it, you're like, I got to the point where I feel like I've done what I had to do. And you found somebody to kind of pass that torch to continue what you were doing. And kind of with us, just everything, your knowledge and everything you're giving us, it's like the same. Like, I take everything that you were saying. I'm like, a new appreciation of what I'm doing. Cause I'm like, somebody was doing this in a way that we didn't have now. And I'm taking what we have now, that, like you said, technology, social media and all that. And I'm taking it to another level, to the point where, the people who watch me, who are like, I want to do this too, can go farther than I could, with it. So I do appreciate that knowledge that you've given us today.
Definitely. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Let me give some shout outs.
We still got another 2 hours.
Oh, we do?
We need to get a longer. We need like a big, like what do you call those? We do like what is it? It was in my mind where you do hours and hours, like 24 hours of just Triforce talking with wisdom.
Yeah, because
you need more time. We need more time with you.
Yeah, I think the timeline thing was just like,
you made me just look at Zelda in a whole different way now.
I think.
Play the game, man. When you play Breath of the Wild, I actually had a whole 12-hour streams where we do environmental archaeological discoveries in the game. That's dope. Nintendo literally told a story in Breath of the Wild through the design of their world. There are things in the game that represents lore in other versions of the game, and Breath of the Wild does it better than any game ever created in existence. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. There are things I'm looking and I'm like, what? Like, just here's an example, right? This is something when they made, and I'll end off this because I don't want to hold it up everyone, but I just want to show you guys something so you can go back to and play Wind Waker, right? No, I'm not Wind Waker. Breath of the Wild. So there are two games. There is Link's Awakening, and then there's Skyward Sword. In both games, they have these huge windfish, the whale fish that fly in the sky, right? And I think there's one in Twilight Princess. I could be mistaken, But
I don't. Yeah.
either way, you have these whale fishes in there. When Link's Awakening came back out, not remastered, redone for the Nintendo Switch, which is a prime example of you can take an old game, redo it, and make it better. Nintendo needs to get on the CDI games. When they made that, right, and you saw the windfish and stuff like that, one of the biggest things the mysteries to this day is, was Link really on an island or did he dream the whole thing? I kept telling people, no, he was unconscious on an actual island dreaming it, but he was physically on that island. The windfish blew him off the island back into the ocean and whatever. I've been saying that literally since when the game first came out.
Man, I love that story though.
When they made Breath of the Wild, the island is there. I was like, what is going on? So then I literally in-game went to the island. I had the whole stream of it where I put the map of the island in 2D and versus the remake versus Breath of the Wild's version of Eventide Island, and it matches Colton Island. And I'm like, that's crazy. There's the mountain where the egg is there. You can climb it. It literally says Colton Rock. I'm like, what is going on here? I found.
I'm going to it now.
I found the area where the two palm trees are there and the area where Link and Marin sit next to in Breath of the Wild. But then when the questions came up, but then Triforce, if that's true, that means the windfish has to have existed. I'm like, the windfish does exist. Go to Herbert Island and go to Herbert Mountain and go to the back of Death Mountain. I forgot the name of that area. You'll see two huge fossils of whale fishes. I was like, what is going on? This game is godlike.
Herbert Mountain?
Yeah.
Yes, in Herbert Mountain, there's an area where you go to, there's a shrine you go into. And in that, the shrine is located inside the cave of a mountain. And in it, you see the huge fossil of a whale with fins.
Oh, yes.
I am not making this up. And then if you go behind Death Mountain, there's another one there. So I'm like, I'm looking through the Zelda lore. I'm like, there's at least two whale fishes there that we saw, and you find it. In Twilight Princess, there's a dragon, right? A flying dragon that you fly in Twilight Princess. Yeah. There's an area where you find dragon bones.
One in the desert.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Nintendo literally sat there and they said, we already know the Forgotten Temple is Skyloft that fell out of the air. We all know that. They literally, the statue that in which you pray to is in Skyloft is sitting there. So Skyloft fell out of the sky in the 10,000 year span of the zone. It's just crazy. There's Minich Woods there. There's the Lost Woods. They show you the areas of two old Deku trees that used to be in there. One on the Great Plateau. It literally, there's digital archaeological discoveries in the game that tells the tales of old games. EG and Miyamoto and the entire Zelda staff sat down and they made the greatest masterpiece in Zelda in the history of video games. I'm like, who does this? Like, who sits down and said, let's listen, not only want to pay homage to this, but let's put this in the game, which connects to this and that, which you can sit there and say it's a lore and then wonder, let people wonder, did Nintendo do that on purpose or not? Mm-hmm. And you just don't know. You just appreciate how godlike the fact that it is in the game, which is a testament to why Breath of the Wild is at the end of the timeline, because it references every other Zelda game ever made. So it can only be in the end.
Right. So real quick, before we end off, if you could do like a real quick answer for these. There's like two questions in the chat here. Sure. One is from Just Cliff. He was curious, what would your dream, and I know this is going to be like a short answer. This is for everyone, actually. What would your dream Zelda be? Just like
my
a quick
dream Zelda.
This is for everyone. Like, what would the dream Zelda game be?
This answer is the same answer I told Anuma at E3. I had an interview with Anuma at E3 where I was talking to him about Zelda Time Lore. And this was before they made Hyrule Warriors, etc., etc. And I was telling him about this would be a great game where they have the Legend of Zelda Spirit of Time, right? Or the Legend of Zelda Link Prime. And this is at some point in the middle of the Zelda lore timeline where the original Link, the spirit of Link from Skyward Sword, had to be reincarnated into an all the Links get reincarnated in a body, but this one was reincarnated into a body, and this Link knows everything. Ganon is doing something to disrupt time to the point where Ganon is trying to go back. The Legend of Zelda, A Link to Ganon or some crap like that. Ganon is trying to do what you did in A Link to the Past, go back in time to Ocarina of Time to stop. Ganon is going back to go help Ganon in Ocarina of Time stop little Link from ever getting the Master Sword, so that he can, if he goes back in time and stop Link from getting the Master Sword, no convergence will ever happen. A paradox will happen, destroy that timeline, and Ganon will rule forever. And Link Prime, meaning the original Link, the Triforce of Courage Link from Skyward Sword, gets reincarnated into a body, goes back in time through all the different Zelda games, stopping Ganon from changing the ending of each Zelda game, in which they now fight in this grand ending area of time, the Chronoverse or whatever, where this Link literally has to stop Ganon before he changes time. And if Link can beat him, he can maintain the timeline and everything goes through. And in the ending, you see all the endings of every Zelda game happen as it is, not knowing that Skyward Sword Link saved them all.
Yo, why hasn't Nintendo picked you up for story writing yet?
You need a book. Your
wait,
book
time
needs to be
out. Anuma knows the story because I told him already.
That's crazy. And for one more question before we end it off, from Jarion XP, what do you think Nintendo looks for brand ambassador, and has it changed over the years?
What did Nintendo
what do you ask for? What he said, like, pretty much in a nutshell, like, do you think the criteria of being a brand ambassador has changed from when you were doing your thing to now?
Yes, and the reason why it's changed, this is not necessarily Nintendo. It's just, it changes with the age of society that we live in. We live in a very sensitive society. A lot of racial tension, a lot of religious issues, political stuff, all these things. And there's so many things going on in the world. Nintendo's walking on eggshells. They literally have to just stay in their lane. So they have to look for like an ambassador. And it's one of the reasons why I stepped down on my own. What I do personally in my life for gaming, there are some danger zones that would how can I put this? That would be a liability to Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood that it was time for me to step down. And that's why I found C&D. When I found C&D, he's young, and he wants to grow up. And some of the things he wants to do, he can't do it because it goes against, it's a liability to Nintendo again. Mm-hmm. And Nintendo needs somebody that relates to them, their policies, their brand. You see, like Charles Martinet, when he's the voice of Mario, he chose not to do any other character's voice because he's trying to protect the integrity of Nintendo. That's literally what I did. I stepped down because I want to protect the integrity of Nintendo. There's only one guy, because if I didn't pick C&D at the time, there was only one other guy who can be the new Captain N for Nintendo, because he respects the integrity of Nintendo. And when he does his gaming for Nintendo, it is literally what Nintendo wants, and that is literally Abdallah. I
agree.
He is literally Nintendo. Literally, he respects all their policies. He understands the business. He understands the community. He understands the culture. And the content he makes is literally the fact that he's a brand ambassador for Nintendo, but like Nintendo needs to absorb him in and say, we're going to give you a job. We want you to be our global ambassador.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And
I've been watching.
And that's not me. And that's not me sucking up to a dollar.
No, yeah. That's
you look at his body of work and you're like, Nintendo, what's going on?
Yeah,
come on, Bowser, what you doing?
Yeah, like I've been watching Abdallah for like 6+ years. I've been sponsoring on his channel for about the same time, and to see what he's done for the community by himself, like you don't see. There's not a lot of him saying let's collab. But a lot of his stuff is just like, yo, I'm gonna just all his content itself is, yeah, you're right. It's just like, why hasn't Nintendo said, yo, we're going to take you under our wing, literally, and just have you like, it don't matter what happens to your channel, because if your channel goes whatever, you're good, because what you can bring to you bring what we are looking for to our corporation as a whole. And I 100% agree with that. And all right, does anyone else have any last thoughts, anything for Triforce here before we end it off here before we officially end it off here?
No, that's good. I just know that we're gonna need some more time from him very soon.
And yeah, man, it's so hard to end because it's like this he has so much knowledge. He has so much knowledge. But if that's it, man, thank you, Triforce, man.
Thank you guys
for being here, man. Thank you,
this, man.
Thank you, Mr. Switch and CHICHUKI, for giving me the opportunity to host this, man. Because
you're welcome.
It was awesome. Thank you everyone here who with all your questions and watching us, man. We appreciate you guys. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. Like Mr. Switch said on the last one, this is episode 28, so that means that this is a thing that's going to be constant, and we hope you guys continue. But this is it for me. This is it for us. This is the Gamer Realm, and we hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and catch us next week on the next podcast. So you guys take care.
Good night, everyone in the chat. Good night, everyone. Later, guys. Everyone take care.